Why does life so often feel like it's testing us at the worst possible moments? You're juggling 100 things at once, and suddenly, something unexpected happens, a setback, a loss, or a moment of complete chaos. It's in these moments that we often feel powerless, trapped in a whirlwind of emotions. But here's the thing, what if the key to staying calm and steady wasn't about controlling the chaos around you, but mastering the way you respond to it? As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In this video, we're going to uncover how Stoicism, a philosophy practiced by ancient thinkers like Marcus Aurelius, can help you find clarity, strength, and peace, even when everything seems to be going wrong. By the end, you'll learn practical ways to reframe challenges, embrace the Stoic mindset, and transform life's most difficult moments into opportunities for growth. Let's dive in. Think back to a moment when you felt utterly powerless. Maybe it was when you received disappointing news, like missing out on a promotion you worked tirelessly for, or perhaps it was something bigger, like losing a job altogether. How did you feel in that moment? Frustrated, anxious, maybe even angry? These emotions are natural, but they often stem from a very common mistake, trying to control the uncontrollable. That's where one of the most powerful principles of Stoicism comes in: the dichotomy of control. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it simply, some things are up to us and some things are not. This is the cornerstone of Stoic thinking, and it's also the key to maintaining your composure when life feels like it's falling apart. The idea is to divide everything in life into two categories: the things you can control and the things you can't. What's in your control? Your thoughts, your actions, your choices. What's outside of your control? Pretty much everything else: other people's opinions, the outcomes of your efforts, and even many of life's random events. Let's take an example. Imagine you've just found out you didn't get a job you desperately wanted. At first, you might feel waves of disappointment or even self-doubt. But if you apply the dichotomy of control here, you can start to see the situation differently. The hiring decision, that was never within your control. What was in your control were the things you did to prepare, your application, your interview, and how you presented yourself. In this light, beating yourself up over something you couldn't influence is not only unhelpful, it's irrational. Instead, the Stoic approach would be to focus on what you can do next. Maybe it's refining your skills, seeking feedback, or preparing for the next opportunity. By shifting your focus, you reclaim your sense of agency and free yourself from unnecessary suffering. Now, this doesn't mean you stop caring about the things outside your control. It's not about indifference, it's about detachment. You can still strive for success, connect with others, and work toward your goals, but you do so with the understanding that the final outcome isn't entirely in your hands. This shift in perspective can be incredibly liberating. Instead of wasting energy on anxiety or frustration, you can channel it toward the things that truly matter: your effort, your integrity, and how you choose to respond to life's challenges. So how can you start applying this in your own life? The next time something doesn't go your way, pause for a moment and ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, practice letting go. If the answer is yes, focus on what you can do. It's a deceptively simple habit, but over time, it can transform the way you approach setbacks. After all, as the Stoics remind us, peace of mind isn't about having a perfect life. It's about mastering how you navigate its imperfections. Let's explore how we can take this even further. Let's look at adversity through a different lens. Picture this: a young entrepreneur spends years building their business from the ground up, only to watch it collapse after an economic downturn. For many, such a loss would seem insurmountable, an irreparable failure. But history is full of stories where individuals used moments like these not as endings but as beginnings. Take Thomas Edison, for example. When a massive fire destroyed his laboratory in his later years, reducing decades of work to ash, his response was astonishing. Instead of despairing, he reportedly told his son, "Go get your mother and all her friends. They'll never see a fire like this again." The very next day, he began rebuilding, famously saying, "I've just found a lot of ways not to do something." Within months, he was back at work, innovating in ways that would ultimately change the world. This ability to reframe adversity is exactly what the Stoics teach us to cultivate. To them, hardship wasn't a curse to be avoided but a test of character, a chance to practice and strengthen virtues like patience, courage, and resilience. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, captured this mindset best when he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the very obstacles you face can become the path forward if you choose to see them that way. Let's break this down. Reframing adversity doesn't mean pretending that difficulties don't exist or diminishing the pain they can cause. Instead, it's about acknowledging the challenge and then asking yourself, what if this isn't happening to me, but for me? How can I use this? This simple shift in perspective changes everything. A missed opportunity becomes a chance to reassess your goals. A failure becomes a stepping stone to future success. Even profound loss can teach us about what truly matters in life. The Stoics believed that every challenge in life presents an opportunity for growth. Think of adversity as a forge where your character is tested and reshaped. For example, if someone wrongs you, it's a chance to practice forgiveness and self-restraint. If you face rejection, it's an opportunity to build resilience and refine your approach. The situation itself doesn't have to define you, your response does. Now, consider how this applies to your own life. Think about a recent struggle you faced. Maybe it was a strained relationship, a career setback, or even just a day when everything went wrong. How did you view it? Did it feel like the universe was working against you, or were you able to find some sliver of growth or learning hidden within it? It's not always easy to take this perspective in the moment, but the good news is that reframing adversity is a skill, and like any skill, it gets stronger with practice. Start small. The next time you're stuck in traffic, instead of getting frustrated, see it as a chance to practice patience. When a project doesn't go as planned, think about what it taught you or how it prepared you for the next challenge. Over time, this mindset becomes second nature. You begin to see that life isn't something that happens to you, it's something that happens for you. Adversity will always be a part of life. But as the Stoics remind us, it's not the adversity itself that matters, it's what we do with it. By seeing challenges as opportunities to build virtue and strength, you can transform the way you navigate life's inevitable ups and downs. And in doing so, you might just discover that what once seemed like an obstacle was really the way forward all along. Let's explore how this idea connects to the power of staying present in the face of life's chaos. Imagine this: you're preparing for a major presentation at work. It's the kind of event that keeps you up at night, replaying every possible way it could go wrong. What if the technology fails? What if you forget your key points? What if your audience is completely disengaged? These thoughts can be paralyzing, filling you with anxiety and self-doubt. But what if, instead of avoiding these worst-case scenarios, you face them head-on? This is where the Stoic practice of Premeditatio Malorum or the premeditation of evils comes into play. The concept of Premeditatio Malorum is simple, yet profound. It involves deliberately imagining the worst-case scenarios that could unfold in any given situation. At first glance, this might sound pessimistic, as though you're intentionally focusing on negative outcomes. but in reality, it's the opposite. By mentally walking through potential hardships ahead of time, you're not dwelling on fear, you're preparing for it. Seneca, the great Roman Stoic, explained it best when he said, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." In other words, anticipation takes away fear's ability to ambush you. Let's go back to that presentation example. If you take a few minutes to practice Premeditatio Malorum you might start by imagining every possible way things could go wrong. The projector doesn't work, you stumble over your words, someone asks a question you can't answer, but don't stop there. Once you've imagined these scenarios, think about how you would respond. If the projector fails, you can have paper copies of your slides on hand. If you forget your words, you can calmly pause, take a breath, and refocus. If an audience member asks a tough question, you can admit you don't have the answer but promise to follow up with them afterward. The point isn't to dwell on disaster, it's to meet it with a plan. By rehearsing these moments in your mind, you'll feel less anxious because you've already prepared yourself to handle whatever comes your way. What makes this practice so powerful is that it reshapes your relationship with fear. Fear often thrives on the unknown, the sense that something catastrophic might happen, leaving you helpless. But when you take the time to envision and prepare for possible difficulties, they become less intimidating. You realize that even in a worst-case scenario, you can respond with resilience and resourcefulness. Over time, this practice not only reduces your fear of the unknown, but also helps you build confidence in your ability to adapt to challenges. Here's another example. Let's say you're worried about losing your job. This is a legitimate fear that many people face, and the uncertainty can feel overwhelming. Practicing Premeditatio Malorum might involve asking yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen if I lose my job? You might imagine needing to adjust your budget, update your resume, or navigate the stress of job hunting. None of these situations are pleasant, but now ask yourself, what would I do in each of these cases? Maybe you'd lean on your savings for a while, reach out to your professional network, or look into freelancing opportunities. By mentally rehearsing these steps, you're not only preparing for the possibility of job loss, but also reminding yourself of your own resilience and resourcefulness. In doing so, you reduce the grip that fear has on you. It's important to note that Premeditatio Malorum isn't about becoming overly fixated on negativity or expecting the worst to happen. It's about balance. You hope for the best but prepare for the worst. This practice mirrors a key Stoic principle. You cannot control the external events of life, but you can control your response to them. By anticipating hardships, you rob them of their power and remind yourself that no matter what happens, you are capable of withstanding it. So, how can you incorporate Premeditatio Malorum into your daily life? Start small. Think about a challenge you're facing this week. Take 5 minutes to sit quietly and imagine the worst possible outcomes. Then, come up with at least 1 or 2 ways you could respond if those scenarios were to happen. You might even find that some of these worst-case situations aren't as bad as they initially seemed. And when the moment comes, if things don't go as planned, you'll face it with a sense of calm and readiness that others might envy. Practicing Premeditatio Malorum reminds us that life's uncertainties don't have to paralyze us. Instead, they can become opportunities to strengthen our minds and prepare ourselves to act with courage and clarity. And who knows, once you've faced your imagined fears, you might find that reality is far kinder than you expected. Let's now explore how staying grounded in the present ties into this preparation and leads to a more peaceful state of mind. What if the things you resist are exactly what you need? This might sound counterintuitive at first. After all, when life throws challenges our way, our instinct is often to push back, to wish things were different, or to question, why me? But what if, instead of resisting, you chose to embrace everything, every success, every setback, every moment of joy, and every ounce of pain, as necessary and even meaningful? This is the essence of the Stoic principle Amor Fati, which translates to love of fate. It's not just about accepting what happens to you, but fully embracing everything as if you'd chosen it yourself. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and one of Stoicism's greatest thinkers, expressed this idea beautifully. He wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." In other words, whatever life hurls your way, whether it's fortune or hardship, can be transformed into fuel for your growth. It's not about pretending that difficulties don't exist or suppressing your feelings, but about choosing to see every experience as a building block in the greater structure of your life. Even the setbacks and heartbreaks can serve to shape you into a stronger, wiser, and more complete version of yourself. This mindset was later echoed by Friedrich Nietzsche, who famously said, "Amor Fati, let that be my love henceforth." I do not want to wage war against what is ugly. I do not want to accuse. I do not even want to accuse those who accuse. Looking away shall be my only negation. And all in all and on the whole, someday I wish to be only a yes-sayer. Loving your fate means saying yes to life in its entirety, the good, the bad, and everything in between. It means refusing to waste energy on wishing things could be different and instead finding the value in what is. But how exactly can you practice Amor Fati when life feels unbearable? Let's say you're facing an unexpected challenge, or perhaps you are eagerly planning a trip, but it had to be cancelled at the last minute. It's natural to feel disappointed, maybe even frustrated. You might notice your mind slipping into if only mode. If only this hadn't happened, everything would be perfect. But what if you reframed that moment? Instead of wishing circumstances were different, you could ask, what can I gain from this? How can this situation serve me? Maybe the cancelled trip gives you unexpected time to reconnect with family, focus on a personal project, or even just rest. By embracing the event rather than resisting it, you open the door to new possibilities. Now, this practice isn't restricted to minor inconveniences. In fact, Amor Fati is even more transformative when applied to life's major challenges. Consider someone who loses their job. At first, this event might be devastating, filled with uncertainty and fear. But by adopting the mindset of Amor Fati, they might begin to see this moment as an opportunity, not one they would have chosen, but one that allows them to pivot towards something new. Maybe it's a chance to explore a long-forgotten passion or to develop skills they've been putting off. Loving their fate doesn't erase the difficulty, but it helps them move forward with resilience and purpose. And here's the remarkable thing about Amor Fati, it frees you from the weight of resistance. When you stop fighting against reality, you can use your energy to adapt, grow, and move forward. It's like swimming in a river. If you constantly struggle against the current, you'll exhaust yourself. But if you go with the flow, you'll eventually find your way downstream. Life is much the same. By embracing what is rather than fixating on what could or should have been, you align yourself with the natural course of events, which helps you respond with greater clarity and strength. So, what would it look like for you to practice Amor Fati today? Think about a situation in your life right now that's causing frustration or difficulty. What would happen if, instead of resisting it, you embraced it as if it were happening for you rather than to you? How might this challenge shape you into a better, more resilient person? This shift in perspective isn't always easy, but it's deeply liberating. Amor Fati reminds us that life's events, no matter how difficult, can serve a purpose if we choose to see it. And in doing so, we not only survive adversity, we thrive because of it. Let's explore how this practice ties into the broader Stoic focus on finding peace within ourselves, regardless of external circumstances. Have you ever spilled coffee on yourself just before an important meeting? In that moment, it feels catastrophic. Your shirt is stained, the clock is ticking, and your stress skyrockets. It's easy to let small inconveniences like this ruin your mood or even your entire day. But let's pause for a second. What happens if you step back and look at this situation from a broader perspective? Is this minor mishap really going to matter in an hour, a week, or a year? Chances are it won't. Yet, how often do we let moments like these consume us, distracting us from what truly matters? This is where the Stoic practice of shifting your perspective becomes so valuable. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and one of history's most famous Stoics, often reminded himself to step back and view life from the widest possible lens. In his meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." When you're caught up in the heat of a situation, taking the time to zoom out can instantly neutralize emotional overreactions and bring clarity to what's truly important. Let's consider another example, one that might resonate more deeply. Imagine you're stuck in traffic and running late for an important appointment. Frustration is building and you can feel your stress turning into anger. But what if you stop to reflect on this moment from a higher vantage point? In the grand scheme of your life, how significant is this delay? Will it matter at all tomorrow, let alone 5 years from now? By mentally zooming out, you can remind yourself that this inconvenience, while annoying, is just a tiny blip in the larger journey of your life. It's not worth sacrificing your peace of mind over something so fleeting. This isn't just about small annoyances, though. The Stoics encourage us to apply this same principle to life's bigger challenges. Let's say you're dealing with a major career setback, like being passed over for a promotion. In the moment, it can feel crushing, even unfair, but stepping back allows you to see that this single event doesn't define your entire career or your life. Perhaps this setback is an opportunity to chart a new course, explore a better suited role, or simply develop resilience. When you view the situation from a distance, it loses some of its emotional intensity. You might even find yourself asking, "What can I learn from this?" rather than, "Why is this happening to me?" Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the sheer size and complexity of the universe to put things into perspective. He reminded himself, and by extension us, that our earthly troubles are like a speck of dust in the vastness of time and space. He wrote, "Reflect often upon how swiftly all things pass away and are no more, the works of nature and the works of man." What is all this striving for? By contemplating the insignificance of life's daily struggles in the grander scheme, we can loosen their grip on us. It's not about dismissing challenges, but acknowledging that they are just fleeting moments in a much larger picture. So how can you practice using perspective in your own life? The next time you're faced with a stressful situation, try pausing for a moment. Ask yourself, will this matter a year from now? What about 5 years from now? If it's a minor inconvenience, this question alone might help you laugh off the stress and move on. If it's a bigger challenge, use it as an opportunity to reflect on what truly matters to you. How does this current struggle fit into your overall goals or values? More often than not, taking that mental step back can help you regain control over your emotions and focus on what's really important. Perspective is one of the Stoics' most powerful tools for maintaining inner peace. When you zoom out, you realize just how much energy we waste on things that, in the end, don't really matter. Instead of letting the moment control you, you can choose to shift your focus to what does matter: your actions, your mindset, and your ability to grow through whatever life throws your way. And with that larger perspective, life's challenges start to feel far less overwhelming. let's explore how this broader view connects to another Stoic principle, focusing on the present moment. Picture the changing of seasons. The vibrant greens of spring give way to the golden hues of summer, which then fade into the crimson and amber of autumn before the stillness of winter settles in. These cycles are inevitable, and they remind us that nothing in nature is permanent. Everything is constantly in motion, evolving and changing. The Stoics saw this same principle of impermanence reflected in every aspect of life, and they believed that understanding and embracing this truth was key to finding peace and resilience, especially in difficult moments. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe constantly that all things take place by change, and accustom yourself to consider that the nature of the universe loves nothing so much as to change the things which are and to make new things like them." Life, much like the seasons, is defined by its transitions. Joy and sorrow, success and failure, comfort and hardship, none of these states are permanent. They are all part of the natural rhythm of existence. When we truly internalize this, it becomes easier to face challenges, knowing that they, too, will pass. Think about the last time you found yourself in the midst of a difficult situation. Maybe it was a loss, a breakup, or a personal failure. At the time, it likely felt overwhelming, as though it would never end. But here you are now, looking back at it. Perhaps the pain has softened. Perhaps the situation even taught you something valuable or helped you grow in ways you didn't expect. This is the power of impermanence. Hardship is never eternal, and knowing this can bring great comfort in the moments when life feels heavy. The Stoic philosopher Seneca reminds us of this truth when he says, "What need is there to weep over parts of life?" The whole of it calls for tears. It may sound grim, but Seneca's words aren't meant to depress us. They're meant to wake us up to life's fleeting nature. Everything we experience, good or bad, is temporary. By understanding this, we not only become better equipped to endure difficulties, but we also learn to cherish the joyful moments while they last, without clinging to them out of fear that they'll end. Because they will, and that's okay. Take, for example, the Japanese art of cherry blossom viewing, or *hanami*. Every spring, people gather to admire the beauty of the blooming cherry trees, knowing full well that the blossoms will last only a few short weeks before falling away. The fleeting nature of the blossoms doesn't diminish their beauty, it enhances it. In the same way, recognizing the impermanence of our own lives and experiences allows us to fully appreciate the moments we have, even as we accept that they will eventually change. So how can you start embracing impermanence in your own life? Begin by observing it in the world around you. Watch the sunrise and know that it will eventually set. Notice the way laughter fades or how a difficult conversation eventually concludes. Reflect on your own past struggles. Chances are, many of them seemed never ending at the time, but now they're just memories. Each of these observations reminds us that life is always in motion. You can also use this understanding of impermanence as a tool for resilience. When you're faced with hardship, remind yourself, this too shall pass. It's not just a cliché, it's a universal truth. By accepting the temporary nature of pain, you can ride out life's storms without being consumed by them. In the same way, when you're experiencing joy, let it fill you up completely without holding on too tightly. Recognize it as the gift it is, a moment to savor before life shifts again. The Stoic understanding of impermanence teaches us that life is not something to control or cling to, it's something to experience fully, in all its highs and lows. As you walk through the seasons of your own life, remember that each moment, no matter how difficult or beautiful, is part of the ever-changing cycle. And in that constant change, there's a kind of peace, a reminder that nothing ever stays the same except for the opportunity to grow. Let's explore how this idea ties into the importance of taking ownership of the present moment. When chaos strikes, emotions can feel like a storm, pulling you in every direction. fear, frustration, anger, they can flood your mind, clouding your judgment and leaving you reactive instead of intentional. In moments like these, it's easy to feel like you've lost control, like you're at the mercy of everything happening around you. But here's the thing, you have control, if not over the external storm, then over your internal state. This is where self-discipline comes in. It becomes your refuge, your anchor in the middle of life's turbulence, helping you bring order to the chaos within and focus on what truly matters. The Stoics understood that self-discipline isn't about rigidly controlling every aspect of your life. Instead, it's about mastering yourself, your thoughts, your impulses, and your actions. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, taught that no man is free who is not master of himself. What he meant was that true freedom doesn't come from external circumstances, but from within, by gaining the ability to act with intention, even when the world around you is spinning out of control. Self-discipline is the practice that allows you to align your actions with your values, regardless of what's happening externally. It's the foundation of resilience. Imagine facing a particularly stressful situation. Perhaps you've been assigned an overwhelming workload and you feel the pressure mounting. Without self-discipline, it's all too easy to let emotions take over. You might procrastinate, vent your frustration on others, or act impulsively to relieve the immediate stress. But these reactions often make things worse in the long run. Now consider the Stoic approach. You pause, take a breath, and intentionally decide how to respond. You break the workload into manageable steps, prioritize tasks, and calmly focus on what's within your power. This ability to choose your response, even when under pressure, is the essence of self-discipline. Self-discipline doesn't just help in moments of crisis. It's something you cultivate daily so that when challenges arise, you're ready. Think of it like strengthening a muscle. By building good habits, whether it's sticking to a morning routine, exercising regularly, or setting aside time for reflection, you create a structure in your life that keeps you grounded. It's not about perfection. It's about consistency, showing up for yourself even when you don't feel like it. Over time, this practice creates a sense of inner stability that no external chaos can shake. Take Marcus Aurelius as an example. Despite being the most powerful man in the Roman Empire, he didn't let his emotions or impulses govern him. Instead, he disciplined himself to act in alignment with his principles as a Stoic and as a leader. Each day, he reflected on his actions and reminded himself of the kind of person he wanted to be, regardless of the challenges he faced. His meditations are filled with reminders to focus on what's within his control, to remain steady, and to cultivate inner strength. This disciplined mindset allowed him to lead with wisdom and clarity, even during times of war and political upheaval. You might wonder, how can I begin practicing this kind of self-discipline? It starts with awareness, paying attention to how you react when things feel chaotic. The next time you're about to act out of impulse or emotion, stop and ask yourself, is this action aligned with my values? Will it help me move forward, or will it create more difficulty later? These small moments of reflection, repeated consistently, help you become more intentional over time. Another powerful practice is setting daily disciplines that support your overall stability. These could be as simple as taking 5 minutes each morning to focus on your priorities for the day, journaling to process your thoughts, or carving out time to exercise or meditate. These habits, though small, build a foundation of inner order that carries over to bigger challenges. When life feels chaotic, these practices remind you that you have control over yourself, even if you can't control your surroundings. Self-discipline is not about suppressing emotions or denying yourself joy. It's about learning to navigate life's challenges with grace and intentionality. It helps you avoid being tossed around by every wave of chaos and instead find stability within yourself. As you strengthen this discipline, you'll discover that no matter how turbulent life gets, you can remain grounded, purposeful, and free. And isn't that what true resilience is all about? Let's now explore how this inner discipline ties into the Stoic practice of controlling your perspective and reframing challenges. Have you ever thought of life's challenges as more than just obstacles? What if, instead of seeing them as roadblocks, you viewed them as exercises, opportunities to train and strengthen your inner virtues? This might sound strange at first, especially when you're in the middle of a tough situation. But to the Stoics, hardships were less about suffering and more about refinement. They believed that just as a blacksmith uses fire to shape and strengthen metal, life uses adversity to shape and strengthen our character. Let's take courage, for example. Courage isn't something you're simply born with, it's something that grows through practice, often in difficult moments. You don't develop courage in the absence of fear. You develop it when fear is present, and you choose to move forward anyway. The same goes for patience. You don't cultivate patience by sitting comfortably in ideal conditions, but by enduring frustrations and delays without losing your composure. Every time life tests you, it's giving you a chance to build these virtues, to grow stronger and more resilient. One of the most striking examples of this mindset can be seen in the life of Cato the Younger, a Stoic admired for his unwavering commitment to principle. Cato lived during the tumultuous final years of the Roman Republic, a time when political corruption was rampant and personal ambition often outweighed integrity. Cato's life was full of challenges. He faced immense political pressure, personal betrayals, and even the threat of death. But instead of letting these hardships break him, he used them as opportunities to practice virtue. When others compromised their morals for political gain, Cato stood firm, refusing to betray his principles even when it cost him dearly. He opposed Julius Caesar's rise to power, knowing full well that his dissent would make him a target. Yet he didn't waver. To Cato, these hardships were not mere misfortunes, they were his training ground. Life had given him the chance to practice courage, integrity, and steadfastness, and he seized it fully. Even in his death, Cato remained true to his beliefs, choosing to end his life on his own terms rather than submit to tyranny. Cato's story reminds us that adversity is not just something to endure, it's an opportunity to grow, to refine the core of who we are. But you don't have to be a historical figure to practice this. Think about your own life. Have you ever faced a situation that seemed insurmountable at the time, yet looking back, you realize it made you stronger? Maybe it was dealing with a difficult coworker, navigating a personal loss, or even just staying patient during a long period of uncertainty. These moments, as painful as they might have been, were your training moments, chances to build the virtues that define the person you are today. So, here's a question to reflect on. What challenges in your life right now could be opportunities to build your character? Maybe you're struggling with anxiety about the future, which is calling you to develop greater trust and patience. Or perhaps you're facing criticism, which is a chance to practice humility and self-restraint. The next time you feel overwhelmed by hardship, try asking yourself, what virtue is this moment calling me to practice? By shifting your mindset in this way, you turn every difficulty into a chance to become better, stronger, and more aligned with the person you want to be. The Stoics knew that life would never be free of challenges, but they also understood that it's in those very challenges that we find purpose and growth. Hardships aren't here to defeat you, they're here to teach you. And every time you face one, you're given the choice to either resist it or embrace it as your training ground for becoming your best self. What will you choose? Let's explore how this idea connects to the Stoic focus on gratitude, even in the face of adversity. Imagine you've just lost something deeply important to you. Maybe it's a prized possession, like a family heirloom, or something more modern, like your phone that holds years of photos and memories. The sense of loss hits you like a wave. You feel frustration, sadness, maybe even guilt for letting it happen. Your mind keeps replaying the situation, asking, if only I had been more careful, or why did this have to happen to me? It's a feeling most of us can relate to, and yet, according to the Stoics, it's also a sign of something deeper, attachment. Stoicism teaches us that excessive attachment to external things, whether they're objects, achievements, or even relationships, leaves us vulnerable to unnecessary pain. At its core, this philosophy reminds us that everything external is impermanent. Things break, people change, circumstances shift. And when we tie our sense of happiness or self-worth to things we can't fully control, we're setting ourselves up for frustration and suffering. Epictetus explained this truth with piercing clarity. You are upset by what is not your own, but what is not your own is nothing to you. In other words, the things outside of your control, no matter how cherished, are not truly a part of you. Recognizing this can be the first step toward a more peaceful and resilient life. Now, Stoicism isn't about giving up everything you care about or becoming indifferent to the world. It's about freedom from being ruled by things outside yourself. When you're overly attached to external outcomes, your emotions and happiness become hostages to forces you can't control. For example, if your sense of fulfillment hinges entirely on a successful career, what happens if you lose your job or don't get that promotion? If your identity is tied to a relationship, how will you cope if it ends? When attachment runs too deep, even minor losses can feel devastating because we've built our emotional stability on something inherently unstable. So how do we practice letting go of attachment without becoming cold or disconnected? The Stoics offer a simple but powerful remedy. They encourage us to shift our focus inward toward the things we can control, our thoughts, our actions, and our attitudes. Instead of clinging to possessions or achievements, we can appreciate them for what they are, temporary privileges, not permanent entitlements. By cultivating this mindset, we can still enjoy life's blessings, but we do so without becoming dependent on them. Here's an analogy that might help. Imagine holding a glass of water. You value it because it quenches your thirst and you take care not to drop it. But at the same time, you know that if the glass were to fall and shatter, it wouldn't break ***. It would be a loss, yes, but not a loss of your core self. This is the kind of relationship the Stoics recommend we have with external things. Care for them, enjoy them, but don't let them define or control you. A great way to start practicing this idea is with small, everyday moments. The next time you lose or break something, pause and remind yourself that it was always temporary to begin with. It might help to reflect on Epictetus' advice. When you are kissing your child or your wife, say to yourself, "You are kissing a mortal." At first, this might sound unsettling, but it's simply a way of reminding yourself to cherish what you have while understanding its impermanence. This isn't about detachment from love or care. It's about preventing the kind of attachment that leads to despair when things inevitably change. Letting go of attachment isn't about avoiding life's joys or cutting yourself off from others. It's about building a sense of inner freedom and stability that isn't dependent on external circumstances. By practicing detachment, you create space to fully experience and appreciate life without being overwhelmed by fear of loss. And in that space, you'll find something the Stoics cherished above all else: peace. Let's now explore how this idea of detachment ties into the Stoic virtue of gratitude, even in challenging times. Have you ever caught yourself lying awake at night, replaying a conversation you wish had gone differently, or worrying about how tomorrow's events might unfold? Your mind jumps between regret over the past and anxiety about the future, creating stress that feels impossible to escape. You want to solve it all at once, to fix what's already happened or control what hasn't even arrived yet. But here's the truth. Overthinking about things outside of this moment doesn't change them. It only drains your energy and fills you with unnecessary stress. The Stoics understood this long ago, and they offered a simple yet profound remedy: focus on the present moment. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and one of Stoicism's most well-known philosophers, put it best when he wrote, "You have to assemble your life action by action, and be satisfied if each one achieves its goal as far as possible." No one can keep that from happening. The Stoic message here is clear: life unfolds one moment at a time, and our job is to give our energy to the moment at hand, not what happened yesterday and not what might happen tomorrow. After all, the past is out of our control and the future isn't guaranteed. The only thing that truly belongs to us is now. Let's think about how this works in practical terms. Imagine you're about to give an important presentation, but your mind is consumed with worry. You're replaying every past mistake you've ever made in similar situations, while also imagining all the ways this presentation could go wrong. The more you overthink, the more paralyzed you feel. But when you pause and narrow your focus to the present moment, the dynamic shifts. You remind yourself that none of those imagined scenarios are happening right now. What's happening right now is this: you need to take a deep breath, stand up, and begin speaking. By focusing on this moment, not the ones that came before or the ones that may come after, you free yourself to act with clarity and confidence. This focus on the present moment isn't about ignoring the bigger picture or neglecting responsibilities. It's about recognizing that the only way to handle life's challenges is by breaking them down into manageable pieces. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this, even while navigating the overwhelming pressures of ruling an empire. In his meditations, he encouraged himself to confine yourself to the present. By focusing exclusively on what needed to be done right now, he avoided becoming overwhelmed by the vast complexity of his responsibilities. Let's explore another scenario. Have you ever felt consumed by regret over something you said to a friend or colleague? You might go over every word in your head, wishing you could go back and act differently. But no amount of rumination will change what's already happened. What you can control is what you do next. Maybe it's apologizing or clarifying your intent, or simply resolving to approach similar situations more thoughtfully in the future. The Stoics would remind you that the past is as immovable as stone, you can't rewrite it, and agonizing over it only prevents you from addressing the present. Focusing on the present moment takes practice, especially in a world that constantly pulls us toward distractions, endless to-do lists, and hypothetical worries. But there are simple ways to begin. When you notice your thoughts spiraling into regret or fear, pause and ask yourself, what's actually within my power right now? Maybe it's taking deep breaths to calm your mind, tackling the one task in front of you, or simply choosing to let go of what you can't control. Even the act of gently bringing your attention back to the present is a small but meaningful step toward peace. The idea of living in the present moment is one of Stoicism's most powerful lessons because it cuts through the noise of life's complexities. It reminds us that we can't live in the past or the future. We can only live now. Action by action, choice by choice, we shape the course of our lives. And when we choose to give our full attention to the moment at hand, we unlock the ability to face life with clarity, purpose, and calm. This focus on the present isn't just a survival tool for tough times, it's a way to fully experience and appreciate each day, no matter what it brings. So let's turn our attention toward how gratitude fits into this practice of presence and transforms our perspective on daily life. Picture yourself in the middle of a chaotic day. Maybe it's a whirlwind of meetings, deadlines, and endless notifications pulling at your attention. Your heart's racing, your mind is scattered, and a sense of overwhelm starts creeping in. It feels like there's no way to slow down, no room to breathe. But then, imagine something surprising. In the middle of this storm, you take just one moment, a moment to pause, to sit still and to reflect. Maybe it's as simple as closing your eyes for 10 seconds and taking a deep breath. The noise around you doesn't disappear, but suddenly you feel a little calmer, a little clearer, a little more in control. That's the power of stillness. This practice of finding moments of peace amid chaos is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics lived in a world that, while vastly different from ours, was not without its own turbulence. Political unrest, personal betrayals, and wars were constants in their time. Yet despite the chaos surrounding them, they turned inward to find clarity and strength. They understood that while we can't always quiet the external world, we can create moments of stillness within ourselves. Seneca, one of the most prolific Stoic philosophers, spoke often about the importance of reflection and stepping back from the chaos of daily life. He wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." His point was clear. We often allow the noise of life to amplify itself in our minds, making challenges feel much larger than they are. To combat this, Seneca urged us to carve out time for silence and self-reflection, no matter how busy life gets. These moments of stillness are where we regain perspective. They allow us to separate what's truly important from what's simply noise. So how do you practice this in the middle of a busy, modern life? It starts with small, intentional pauses. You don't need hours of meditation or a retreat in the mountains to find stillness. Even a few seconds of reflection during your day can make a difference. For instance, let's say you're feeling overwhelmed at work. Before jumping to the next task, take a moment to sit quietly. Close your eyes, focus on your breath, and ask yourself, what's the one thing I need to focus on right now? This simple pause won't solve all your problems, but it will help you approach them with a clearer and calmer mind. The same principle applies to emotional chaos. If you're feeling consumed by anger or frustration, pressing pause before you react can change everything. Imagine you've just received a message that upsets you. Instead of responding immediately, follow Seneca's advice and give yourself time to reflect. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Is my initial reaction aligned with my values? In the space created by stillness, you often find better answers and avoid unnecessary conflicts. Incorporating these moments of stillness into daily life doesn't have to feel like a chore. You can weave them into things you're already doing. Take a quiet moment during your morning coffee to set an intention for the day. Use your commute to reflect on what you're grateful for instead of scrolling through your phone. Even a brief pause before bed to review your actions that day can help you realign with what matters most. These moments of reflection, small as they may seem, build up over time, creating a foundation of inner peace and clarity. The beauty of stillness is that it doesn't require the world around you to stop. It just asks you to step away from the noise for a moment and turn inward. The Stoics knew that it's in these moments of reflection, however brief, that we rediscover our sense of purpose and regain control over our thoughts. It's where we remind ourselves of what's within our power and what isn't, allowing us to let go of distractions and focus on what truly matters. Silence and reflection in chaos aren't luxuries, they're necessities. They are tools that ground us when life feels overwhelming and help us act not out of impulse but with intention. And in doing so, they remind us that even in the busiest, noisiest moments, peace is always within reach. Let's now explore how embracing simplicity in our lives can further reinforce this inner sense of calm and focus. Imagine a man who has just lost his job. At first, the weight of the loss feels unbearable. He's worried about his finances, his future, and what others might think of him. But instead of being consumed by these thoughts, he chooses to pause and shift his focus. He sits down with a pen and paper and starts writing a list On it, he includes things like, "I'm grateful for my supportive family," "I still have my health," and "I have marketable skills that will help me find another opportunity." As he writes, something surprising happens. The anxiety and fear that gripped him begin to loosen. By focusing on what he still has rather than what he's lost, he starts to feel a sense of calm and even hope. That's the power of gratitude. The Stoics understood that life is full of hardships. Losses, failures, and setbacks are inevitable. But they also knew that gratitude has the unique ability to anchor us even in the most difficult moments. Gratitude isn't about ignoring challenges or pretending everything is fine. It's about deliberately shifting your focus to recognize the value of what remains, to see the good that still exists amidst the struggle. As Epictetus famously said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." So, how does gratitude work as a tool for staying grounded? It reframes your perspective. When you're facing adversity, your mind naturally tends to fixate on what's wrong, what you've lost, what you lack, or how unfair a situation seems. Gratitude interrupts this cycle. It allows you to step back, redirect your thoughts, and remember the things that still bring you strength, comfort, or joy. Even in the darkest moments, there's always something to be thankful for, whether it's a supportive friend, the lessons a hardship is teaching you, or even something as simple as the warmth of sunlight on your face. For example, Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor who faced immense challenges as Rome's ruler, frequently reflected on gratitude in his writings. Despite dealing with wars, political betrayal, and personal loss, he maintained a practice of acknowledging and appreciating the good in his life. In his meditations, he often wrote about the people who had positively influenced him and the opportunities he had to make the world better. By doing so, he kept himself grounded and focused on what truly mattered, even when the pressures of his role felt overwhelming. You might be wondering, how do we practice this in our own lives? Gratitude doesn't have to be a grand or complicated process. It's something you can incorporate into your daily routine in small but meaningful ways. One effective practice is keeping a gratitude journal. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be big. They can be as simple as enjoying a good meal, having a productive conversation, or seeing a beautiful sunset. Over time, this habit trains your mind to actively seek out the positives, even during tough times. Another technique is to express gratitude to others. Think of someone who has supported you recently, no matter how small their action was. Maybe they listened to you vent, shared advice, or simply made you laugh. Take a moment to thank them, whether it's through a quick text, a heartfelt note, or even just saying it in person. Expressing gratitude not only strengthens your relationships, but also reminds you of the support system you have around you. And when life feels especially difficult, try practicing gratitude in the moment. Pause and ask yourself, what do I still have? What can I appreciate right now? It might be the opportunity to rest, the kindness of a stranger, or even just the strength you're showing by facing the challenge head-on. This simple act of reflection can completely shift your mindset, helping you navigate hardship with greater resilience. Gratitude, at its core, is about recognizing the gifts that life continues to offer, even when things aren't going your way. It doesn't erase difficulties, but it gives you the strength to face them with a clearer perspective and an open heart. As Seneca wisely said, nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart. By cultivating gratitude, not just in moments of ease, but especially in moments of struggle, you can stay grounded, find balance, and remind yourself of the abundance that exists even in the face of life's inevitable challenges. Let's now explore how gratitude connects to the broader Stoic pursuit of finding purpose and meaning in adversity. How would you live if you truly accepted that life is fleeting? It's a sobering question, but also a liberating one. So often we go through life distracted by trivial concerns, worrying about things that, in the grand scheme of things, don't really matter. We stress about minor inconveniences or cling to grudges that weigh us down, all while losing sight of the bigger picture. The Stoics had a practice that cuts through this noise and brings life's true priorities into sharp focus. It's called Memento Mori, which means remember you must die. Far from being morbid or depressing, this practice of contemplating mortality is deeply empowering. It reminds us to live fully, to let go of what doesn't serve us, and to focus on what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on mortality in his meditations. As both a philosopher and a Roman emperor, he lived with constant reminders of life's fragility. Wars, plagues, and political instability were all part of his reality. Yet, instead of fearing death, he used it as a guide for how to live. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." These words are a powerful call to action. They're not about dwelling on death, but about using the inevitability of it to shape how we approach each moment. If you knew your time was limited, and it is, how might you spend it differently? What grudges would you let go of? What worries would you stop feeding energy into? What joys would you embrace more fully? Memento Mori is about gaining perspective. So often, the things that cause us the most stress or anxiety are, in the grand arc of life, incredibly small. Will the awkward mistake you made in a meeting matter a year from now? Will the rude comment from a stranger define your life? When you remember that life itself is finite, these everyday frustrations lose their power. They shrink in significance, making room for what truly deserves your attention, your relationships, your passions, your growth. But Memento Mori isn't just about reducing anxiety, it's also about urgency. When you remind yourself of life's brevity, you realize there's no time to waste on things that don't align with your values. Instead of procrastinating, you act. Instead of putting off meaningful conversations or experiences, you prioritize them. The Stoics invite us to recognize that every day, every hour, every moment is a gift, not something to take for granted. To Marcus Aurelius, this wasn't just philosophical, it was practical. He wrote, "Do not act as if you are going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." His words urge us to focus on the now, to live with intention, and to leave nothing important undone. Consider how this practice might apply to your own life. Think of something you've been putting off, a passion project, a meaningful conversation, or even just taking the time to truly relax and enjoy a moment of peace. What would change if you reminded yourself that your time is finite? What are you waiting for? Memento Mori pushes us to act, not out of fear of death, but out of respect for life. One way to integrate this practice is to set aside a quiet moment each day for reflection. This could be as simple as writing in a journal or meditating on the question, "If today were my last, how would I spend it?" You might realize that certain worries aren't worth carrying, or that there's someone you need to forgive. You might decide to spend more time on the things that light you up and less on the things that drain you. By regularly reflecting on mortality, you recalibrate your life toward what really matters. The Stoics weren't asking us to dwell on death with sadness, they were teaching us to meet it with clarity and purpose. When you embrace Memento Mori you stop wasting time on what's trivial, you stop postponing joy, you stop holding back from living the life you truly want. And in doing so, you discover one of life's greatest truths, that by remembering the end, you learn how to fully live. Let's reflect on how this perspective ties into the larger Stoic goal of cultivating inner peace and resilience, no matter what challenges life brings. Think back to a time when you faced a challenge so overwhelming you weren't sure how you'd make it through. Maybe it was the loss of a loved one, a financial crisis, or simply a period of deep uncertainty in your life. Now ask yourself, what helped you endure? For many of us, the answer isn't something we managed on our own. Instead, it was the people around us, a family member who offered a kind word, a friend who listened without judgment, or even a community that reminded us we're not alone. This idea of leaning on others in times of hardship is not only profoundly human, but it's also deeply Stoic. While Stoicism is often associated with cultivating individual strength and resilience, the ancient Stoics also believed that human beings are not meant to face life's challenges in isolation. In fact, they saw each of us as part of a larger whole, a web of interconnected relationships and shared humanity. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations writes, "We are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of the upper and lower teeth." To him, this interconnectedness wasn't just a fact of life, it was one of its core purposes. Consider the story of someone navigating an immense challenge, like recovering from a serious illness. On the surface, it might seem like their journey is one of solo strength, of enduring tests and trials through sheer willpower. But beneath the surface, there's often an invisible network of support. A sibling who takes them to their doctor's appointments, a friend who checks in regularly offering encouragement, even distant acquaintances who send small gestures of kindness like a meal or a card. Each of these interactions, however small, adds to their strength. It reminds them that they don't have to carry the burden alone. This is exactly what the Stoics believed about the power of community, that living well isn't just about individual fortitude, but about embracing the bonds that connect us. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reflected on this truth. He reminded himself that we are social beings made to support one another. Even during his reign as emperor, when the weight of the Roman Empire rested on his shoulders, he kept this perspective. He understood that leadership wasn't about isolating oneself or shouldering every responsibility alone. It was about working alongside others, recognizing their contributions and fostering unity. But this principle doesn't just apply to emperors or leaders. In our own lives, we find strength through community in countless ways. It might be a close circle of family members who provide emotional support, a group of friends who remind us to laugh even during tough times, or colleagues who step up to help when the workload feels unbearable. Even strangers can play a role in this larger whole. Think of how a kind gesture from someone you've never met, like offering a helping hand or sharing words of encouragement, can brighten the darkest of days. The Stoics remind us that leaning on others isn't a sign of weakness, it's part of what it means to be human. It's also a reciprocal process. Just as we find strength in the support of others, we can also become a source of strength for those around us. On days when you feel steady, you might be the hand that lifts someone else. On days when you falter, you'll find that same hand reaching out to steady you. This give and take is one of the most beautiful aspects of interconnectedness. It reminds us that no matter what challenges come our way, we're never truly alone. So how can you embrace this Stoic principle in your daily life? Start by acknowledging the people in your life who support you, whether that's family, friends, or even a broader community. Take a moment to express gratitude for their presence. Then consider how you can strengthen these bonds. Maybe it's reaching out to a friend who's struggling, listening without offering solutions, or simply being present when someone needs you. By nurturing these connections, you're not just helping others, you're also building a network of resilience that will sustain you when life gets tough. The Stoic belief in interconnectedness teaches us that we are strongest when we stand together. By finding strength in community, we honor one of the most profound truths of life, that our challenges are lighter, our lives richer, and our hearts fuller when we support each other. And in living this way, we come closer to the Stoic ideal of a life well lived, not only for ourselves but for the greater good of those around us. Let's turn now to how this sense of unity and interconnectedness ties into the broader Stoic understanding of purpose and serving others. Stoics are not emotionless. This is one of the biggest misconceptions about Stoicism, that it teaches people to suppress their feelings and live like cold, unfeeling statues. But nothing could be further from the truth. The Stoics didn't see emotions as something to eliminate. Instead, they believed in understanding and regulating them so they wouldn't control our actions or cloud our judgment. Rather than rejecting emotions, the Stoics sought to master them, using reason and introspection to guide their responses. In fact, they viewed emotions as a natural part of being human, but they made a crucial distinction: the difference between having emotions and being ruled by them. To understand this, let's look at what the Stoics taught about emotions. They believed that emotions are often rooted in our judgments about the world. When something happens, we interpret that event through the lens of our beliefs and expectations. For example, if your boss criticizes your work, your immediate judgment might be, "This means I'm a failure," which can lead to feelings of shame or anxiety. However, the Stoics would encourage you to step back and examine that judgment. Does this criticism really define your worth, or is it simply feedback on one aspect of your performance? By changing your interpretation of the event, you can change your emotional response. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, had much to say about emotions and their role in our lives. He acknowledged that emotions are a natural part of the human experience, but he also warned against letting them dominate us. In his writings, he made an important distinction between the initial feeling, what he called the first movement, and the emotional reaction that follows. The first movement is automatic and unavoidable. It's the surge of anger when someone cuts you off in traffic, or the pang of sadness when you receive bad news. These feelings arise without your control, and there's no point in fighting them. Where you have control, Seneca argued, is in what happens next. Do you let that anger fester and lead to shouting or reckless behavior, or do you pause, reflect, and choose a calmer response? The Stoics believed that this space between feeling and reaction is where our true power lies. Let's consider an everyday example. Imagine you're having a difficult conversation with a loved one and they say something hurtful. Your first movement might be a flash of anger or frustration. That's completely normal. It's your natural emotional response. But what happens next is up to you. If you immediately lash out, you're letting your emotions dictate your actions, which might escalate the conflict. But if you choose to pause, take a breath, and calmly explain how the comment made you feel, you're practicing emotional regulation. You're using reason to guide your response, rather than letting raw emotion take the wheel. This is what the Stoics mean by mastering emotions, not suppressing them, but engaging with them thoughtfully and constructively. This approach doesn't mean you ignore or dismiss your feelings. In fact, the Stoics encouraged deep self-awareness. They believed that understanding your emotions, why they arise, what they're telling you, can lead to greater clarity and peace of mind. For example, if you're feeling jealous, instead of pushing that feeling away or acting on it impulsively, the Stoic way would be to ask yourself, what's driving this emotion? Am I making assumptions or comparing myself unfairly? Is this feeling helping me, or is it holding me back? By exploring your emotions through this lens, you can learn from them without becoming their prisoner. Mastering emotions is a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. Start by paying attention to your emotional triggers. The next time you feel a surge of anger, anxiety, or sadness, pause before reacting. Acknowledge the feeling without judgment, and then ask yourself if your initial reaction is rooted in a reasonable judgment or a misperception. Over time, this practice can help you approach life's challenges with greater calm and clarity. The Stoic view of emotions is not about denying your humanity, it's about fully embracing it. Emotions are a natural part of life, and they have a place in a well-lived existence. But by mastering your emotional reactions, you gain the freedom to act in alignment with your values rather than being swept away by impulsive feelings. This isn't about becoming emotionless, it's about living with intention, clarity, and resilience. Let's continue by exploring how this mastery over emotions ties into the Stoic practice of aligning our actions with virtue. Think about a time when fear held you back. Maybe it was the fear of failure that stopped you from pursuing a dream job, starting a new project, or even sharing an idea during a meeting. That knot of anxiety in your chest, the voice in your head whispering, "What if it doesn't work out?" We've all been there. Fear has a way of paralyzing us, keeping us stuck in the familiar, even when we long for growth or change. But what if fear isn't the enemy we think it is? What if, instead of running from it, we could face it head-on with logic and clarity? This is exactly what Stoicism teaches us, how to confront fear rationally rather than letting it dominate our lives. The Stoics believed that fear is often rooted in faulty judgment. Our minds exaggerate the negative possibilities and downplay our ability to respond. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most profound teachers, reminds us, men are disturbed not by things but by the views which they take of them. It's not the event itself that causes fear, but our perception of it. Fear of failure, for example, isn't about the failure itself. Failure is just an outcome. It's the meaning we attach to it. I'll disappoint everyone, or it will prove I'm not good enough. That creates the emotional weight. If we shift our perspective, we can begin to dismantle fear piece by piece, replacing exaggeration with reason. Let's explore this with a relatable example. You're considering applying for a job or auditioning for an opportunity you've always dreamed of, but the fear of failing stops you in your tracks. The voice in your head says, "What if I'm rejected? What if people laugh at me? What if I embarrass myself?" At first, these fears feel overwhelming. But using Stoic logic, you can break them down. Start by asking yourself, what's the worst that could actually happen? Maybe the worst case is that you don't get the job or you don't perform as well as you hope. Now take it one step further. What would that mean for your life? Would it truly ruin you, or is it just a temporary setback? Chances are, even in a worst-case scenario, you would survive. You'd learn from the experience and move forward, better prepared for the next opportunity. The next step is to ask, is this fear helping me or holding me back? Fear has its purpose. It can keep us safe in dangerous situations, but if it's stopping you from trying something meaningful, then it's not serving you. By shining a light on the fear and examining it logically, you strip it of its power. In this case, fearing rejection doesn't protect you. It just keeps you from potentially achieving something great. The Stoics would encourage you to take action despite the fear, knowing that your worth isn't defined by outcomes, but by the effort and courage you bring to the process. Seneca offers a powerful antidote to fear when he says, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." He's reminding us that fear is often a product of our mind, not our reality. Think about how many times you've dreaded an event or situation, only to find it wasn't nearly as bad as you imagined. Fear builds walls in our minds, but the truth is that most of those walls are illusions. By confronting your fears logically, you begin to see them for what they are, mental constructions that can be dismantled with reason. One practical way to apply this is through a Stoic exercise called fear rehearsal. This involves imagining the feared scenario, failing the job interview, stumbling through the presentation, or making a mistake, and then walking yourself through it step by step. Ask yourself, what would I do if this happened? How would I recover? How could I grow from it? By mentally rehearsing the fear, you desensitize yourself to it and prepare your mind to respond constructively if it does occur. Facing fear with logic doesn't mean eliminating fear entirely. It means not letting it control you. Fear will arise, as it does for all of us, but the Stoics show us that we have a choice. We can react impulsively, or we can step back, examine it with reason, and move forward with courage. The next time fear arises in your life, take a deep breath, pause, and ask yourself, is this fear based on reality or imagination? What's truly the worst that could happen? And how much of my energy does this fear deserve? In answering these questions, you'll find that fear is not as powerful as it seems, and neither are its barriers. Let's now explore how this process of confronting fear can open the door to taking bold action and living with greater purpose. What matters more, how you act or what you achieve? It's an important question, and one that cuts to the heart of Stoic philosophy. In a world that often measures success by results, your job title, your income, the awards you've won, it's easy to get caught up in chasing outcomes. But here's the Stoic perspective. Outcomes are largely outside your control. The only thing you truly own is how you live, the decisions you make, the integrity you maintain, and the virtues you embody. This shift in focus from external results to internal character is what allows Stoics to find peace even amidst chaos and failure. Marcus Aurelius put it beautifully when he wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be." B1. The Stoics believed that living a good life didn't depend on what you accomplish, but on whether you act with virtue in each moment. Virtue, for the Stoics, is a kind of moral compass. It's the commitment to living with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. These qualities become your guide, no matter what storms life throws your way, and they free you from the anxiety of trying to control everything around you. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you're leading a team on a major project and you've poured your heart into it. You've planned everything meticulously, stayed up late problem solving, and given it your absolute best effort. But despite all of your hard work, unexpected circumstances derail the project. It doesn't deliver the results you hoped for. Naturally, you might feel frustrated or disappointed. But the Stoic approach asks you to step back and reflect. Did you act with integrity and diligence? Did you treat your team with fairness and respect? If the answer is yes, then you've succeeded regardless of the outcome. By focusing on the virtue of your actions rather than obsessing over results you couldn't fully control, you preserve your peace of mind. This idea can be empowering because it shifts your metric for success from something external and fleeting to something internal and lasting. Achievements can be lost and circumstances can change in an instant. But your character, that's within your power. Acting virtuously isn't tied to whether life goes your way or not. It's something you can do no matter the situation, which means it's always within your grasp to live a good life even when things fall apart. The beauty of focusing on virtue is that it also simplifies decision-making. When you're faced with a tough choice, instead of agonizing over what will bring the best outcome, an outcome you can never fully predict, you ask yourself a simpler question. What's the right thing to do? What's aligned with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline? By grounding your actions in virtue, you not only act with integrity but also eliminate the stress and second-guessing that come from trying to control results. Now you might wonder, does this mean Stoics didn't care about success or didn't strive for excellence? Far from it. The Stoics encouraged ambition and hard work, but they always emphasized that effort should be focused on what's within your control. You can aim for great things, but it's the pursuit of them with virtue that matters, not whether you achieve them. Outcomes are never guaranteed, but your character is always within your power to shape. Take a moment to reflect on this in your own life. Are there situations where you've placed too much weight on external results, whether it's hitting a career milestone, earning a certain amount of money, or even gaining someone's approval? What would happen if instead you focused on living virtuously through those situations? How might that change the way you think, act, or even feel? Ultimately, the Stoic focus on virtue over outcomes gives us a tremendous sense of freedom. It allows us to pursue goals boldly but without fear of failure. It helps us face challenges with integrity, knowing that how we act matters more than what happens next. And in the end, it reminds us that no matter where life takes us, living with virtue ensures we'll always be on the right path. Let's move forward by exploring how this commitment to virtue helps us cultivate a deeper sense of purpose and fulfillment in our daily lives. Imagine a young artist who pours their heart into a painting. They spend weeks perfecting every detail, painstakingly crafting something they believe will resonate. But when the painting is submitted to a competition, it's rejected outright. The judge's feedback is blunt, the composition feels cluttered, the colors too muted. For many, rejection like this would sting. It might feel like a final judgment, a reason to give up altogether. But what if, instead of seeing this as a failure, the artist chose to view it as feedback? What if the rejection wasn't the end of their journey, but the beginning of their next step forward? This mindset of treating setbacks not as walls but as stepping stones is exactly what the Stoics teach us about failure. To the Stoics, failure was never something to be feared or avoided. Instead, it was seen as a natural and necessary part of growth. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, taught that difficulties are things that show a person what they are. In other words, failures aren't personal indictments, they're opportunities to learn, adapt, and strengthen our character. When we encounter setbacks, we're being handed valuable information about what didn't work, what can be improved, and how we can refine our approach. Viewed through this lens, failure transforms from an emotional blow into a neutral event, one that serves as a teacher, not a verdict. Think about it this way. When a toddler is learning to walk, they fall constantly. But no one looks at those falls and says, they're failing at walking. Instead, each stumble is seen as part of the process, a way for them to learn balance, adjust their footing, and eventually take their first step. The Stoics encourage us to use this same perspective in our own lives. Rather than beating ourselves up over mistakes or viewing setbacks as proof of inadequacy, we can approach them with curiosity. What went wrong here? What can I learn from this? How can I improve? Consider Thomas Edison, who famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This perspective aligns perfectly with Epictetus' teachings. Edison didn't see his countless missteps as failures. Instead, he treated each one as a piece of information, a clue guiding him closer to the invention of the light bulb. For the Stoics, this kind of resilience wasn't just about enduring challenges. It was about engaging with them, using each experience, no matter how difficult, to grow wiser and stronger. This approach can be incredibly liberating, especially when applied to everyday life. Let's say you're working on a big pitch for your company, and despite your best efforts, it falls flat. The client isn't impressed and the deal doesn't go through. In that moment, it's easy to feel defeated, to label yourself as a failure. But the Stoic way would be to step back and reframe the situation. What did the client's reaction teach you about their needs? Were there elements of the pitch that could be clearer or more persuasive next time? In this reframing, the failed pitch becomes a lesson, a source of insight that equips you for future success. Of course, this mindset takes practice. When setbacks happen, our immediate reaction is often emotional. We feel frustration, disappointment, or even shame. The Stoics don't ask us to suppress these feelings, they're part of being human. but they do encourage us to move beyond the emotional reaction and into reflection. Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters. By approaching failure with curiosity instead of self-judgment, we create space to grow. So, how can you start applying this Stoic principle in your own life? Begin by treating each setback as data. The next time something doesn't go as planned, write down what happened without assigning blame or attaching emotion. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I adjust my approach moving forward? This small practice can transform the way you view challenges, turning them into invaluable opportunities for self-improvement. Ultimately, setbacks aren't signs that we should stop. They're signals that we're in the process of learning. The Stoics teach us that failure isn't the opposite of success, it's a crucial part of it. It's through our mistakes, our missteps, and our stumbles that we grow into stronger, wiser, and more capable versions of ourselves. Whether it's a personal goal, a career aspiration, or even just navigating day-to-day life, remember this: setbacks aren't the end of the road, they're the markers guiding you to something better. Let's now explore how this perspective ties into the importance of patience and persistence in the face of adversity. Imagine you wake up to a day that starts off completely wrong. Maybe you overslept, spilled your coffee, and then got stuck in traffic, all before tackling a mountain of responsibilities. It's the kind of morning that puts you on edge, making even small frustrations feel overwhelming. But now consider this: what if, instead of being thrown off course by life's chaos, you had practices in place, simple, consistent routines that kept you grounded no matter what the day threw at you? That's the power of daily habits when it comes to building resilience, and it's a concept the Stoics relied on to navigate some of life's most challenging moments. Resilience isn't something we summon in the middle of a crisis. It's something we build over time, like strengthening a muscle. And for the Stoics, this muscle was conditioned through small, deliberate practices that prepared their minds and emotions for whatever life might bring. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, often emphasized the importance of preparation in building this kind of inner strength. He wrote, "The man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." In other words, resilience isn't about avoiding difficulty, it's about being ready for it. One way the Stoics practiced resilience was by establishing routines that created structure amid life's unpredictability. These routines didn't just help them stay organized, they reinforced a sense of control over their inner worlds, even when the external world felt chaotic. For Marcus Aurelius, these routines included daily reflection. As Emperor of Rome, Marcus had no shortage of stress and pressure, but he made it a habit to carve out moments of stillness to reflect on his thoughts and actions. Through this practice, he kept his focus on what was within his control and reminded himself of the virtues he sought to embody. You too can create routines that help you develop resilience in your daily life. For instance, starting your day with a moment of mindfulness or journaling can set the tone for how you handle challenges. Imagine taking just 5 minutes each morning to write about what you're grateful for, what you want to focus on, and how you plan to approach difficulties with patience and strength. This practice not only helps calm your mind, but also trains you to maintain perspective when things don't go as planned. Another simple Stoic-inspired habit is practicing voluntary discomfort. Seneca often advised exposing yourself to small, controlled forms of discomfort to prepare for larger challenges. This could be as simple as taking a cold shower, skipping a luxury you're used to, or even fasting for a short period of time. These small acts may seem trivial, but they help you build mental toughness and remind you that life's comforts are not necessities. By putting yourself in situations where you face controlled adversity, you're better equipped to handle the unexpected hardships that inevitably arise. Physical practices can also play a role in building resilience. The Stoics believed in caring for the body as part of cultivating a strong mind. Regular exercise, for example, not only strengthens your physical endurance but also reinforces discipline and perseverance. Imagine how much more prepared you'll feel for life's larger challenges when you've already trained yourself to push through the discomfort of a workout or the discipline of consistency. Consistency is key here. Small daily habits might not seem significant on their own, but over time they add up. Just as lifting a single weight one day doesn't build muscle but consistent training does, small habits repeated daily fortify your mental and emotional strength. These habits act like anchors in a storm, providing stability when life feels chaotic. Finally, practice self-reflection at the end of your day. Seneca believed in reviewing your actions and thoughts each evening, asking yourself questions like, what did I do well today? Where could I improve? Did I act in accordance with my values? This practice not only helps you learn from your experiences, but also reinforces a mindset of growth and patience. Over time, it becomes a tool for staying grounded, no matter what the day has brought. Resilience doesn't appear overnight. It's the result of deliberate, consistent effort to prepare your mind and body for life's uncertainties. By building small, Stoic-inspired habits into your routine, whether it's morning reflection, voluntary discomfort, or evening self-assessment, you'll gradually create a foundation of strength that allows you to face challenges with greater calm, clarity, and courage. And when the unexpected happens, as it always does, you'll find yourself far better equipped to respond, not react. Let's turn now to how these daily practices connect to living a life of purpose and principle. What will this moment mean in 5 years? It's a simple question, but one with the potential to completely shift your perspective. When we're caught up in the heat of a difficult situation, whether it's an argument, a setback, or simply a bad day, it feels all-encompassing. The frustration, the stress, the emotions, it's as though the current moment is the only thing that exists and nothing else matters. But the truth is, most of what feels overwhelming today will fade over time. The missed deadline, the awkward mistake, the rejection, they rarely hold the weight we assign to them in the moment. This is why the Stoics constantly encourage us to zoom out, to step back from immediate struggles, and to remember the bigger picture. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations often reminded himself to maintain this broader perspective. As Emperor of Rome, he faced enormous challenges, wars, political betrayals, and the constant pressures of leadership. Yet, even in the face of these monumental struggles, he chose to reflect on the vastness of the universe and the fleeting nature of time. He wrote, "Keep in mind how fast things pass by and are gone, those that are now and those to come. Existence flows past us like a river. The what is in constant flux, the why has 1,000 variations. Nothing is stable, not even what's right here." By reflecting on the transience of life, Marcus found clarity. He saw that many of the things that seemed urgent or overwhelming were ultimately insignificant in the grand scheme of existence. This practice of stepping back and remembering the bigger picture isn't about dismissing current challenges or pretending they don't matter. It's about perspective. The Stoics believed that by looking at life from a wider lens, we could understand our difficulties as temporary and manageable. Imagine looking at your life as though it were a painting. If you press your nose right up to the canvas, all you see are smudges and imperfections. This represents your immediate struggles, but when you step back, the painting, the bigger picture, comes into focus, and you realize those smudges are just small, unimportant parts of a much larger masterpiece. Let's take a real-world example. Imagine facing a career setback, such as being passed over for a promotion. In the moment, it feels like a disaster. You might feel angry, hurt, or even question your abilities. But now pause and ask yourself, what will this mean in 5 years? Will this moment define your career, or will it simply be a turning point that pushes you in a new direction? With time, you might realize that the rejection was a catalyst for growth, encouraging you to refine your skills or pursue opportunities that are an even better fit. Often, the things that feel like failures in the moment become stepping stones when viewed through the lens of time. The Stoics also encourage us to reflect on what truly matters in life. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the importance of focusing on virtue and purpose above all else. For him, the goal wasn't to avoid difficulties but to approach them in a way that upheld his principles, to act with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. By focusing on living a life of virtue, the immediate ups and downs became less significant. What mattered was whether he responded to challenges in a way that aligned with his greater purpose. You can apply this same practice in your own life. The next time you find yourself overwhelmed, take a moment to zoom out. Ask yourself, what will this mean in 5 years? How does this fit into the bigger picture of my life? Am I acting in alignment with my values? These questions can help you put the moment into perspective and focus on what truly matters, how you respond, the lessons you learn, and the bigger purpose you're working toward. Ultimately, remembering the bigger picture allows us to face life's challenges with greater calm and clarity. It reminds us that while difficulties may feel immense in the moment, they are often just small parts of a much larger journey. And by keeping our focus on that broader journey, on living purposefully and with integrity, we can find meaning and strength even in the face of life's most trying moments. Let's now explore how this perspective ties into the Stoic practice of finding tranquility through acceptance. Life will always throw challenges our way, moments when everything feels like it's falling apart, when the weight of uncertainty and hardship threatens to overwhelm us. But as we've explored in this video, Stoicism offers us powerful tools to remain calm, composed, and even find strength amidst the chaos. It's not about denying difficulty, it's about mastering how we respond. We've talked about the art of reframing adversity, seeing challenges not as setbacks but as opportunities for growth, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" The Stoics encourage us to ask, what can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger? It's a shift in perspective that gives you back your power, transforming even life's hardest moments into moments of growth. We've explored the practice of detachment, the idea of letting go of the things we cannot control. Whether it's the opinions of others, the outcomes of our efforts, or the unpredictable turns of life, the Stoics remind us that peace comes not from controlling the uncontrollable, but from focusing on what is within our power, our mindset, our actions, and our values. As Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This simple truth can change the way we approach nearly every challenge we face. And finally, we looked at cultivating presence, the ability to live fully in the moment, undistracted by regrets about the past or worries about the future. Life happens here in the present, and the more grounded we are in this moment, the better equipped we are to respond with clarity and purpose. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to confine his focus to the present, writing, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. These principles, reframing adversity, practicing detachment, and cultivating presence, are tools that can help you navigate even the most difficult times. They're not abstract ideas meant for philosophers long gone. They are practical, actionable ways to live a life of resilience, purpose, and peace. The Stoics didn't just talk about these practices, they lived them, often under extraordinary circumstances. And their wisdom is just as relevant to us now as it was 2,000 years ago. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a challenge. Which of these principles will you start practicing in your own life? The next time you find yourself in a difficult situation, will you choose to reframe the adversity, find strength in letting go of what you can't control, or anchor yourself in the present moment? By applying even one of these tools, you'll be taking a step toward becoming more resilient and calm, no matter what life throws your way. I'll leave you with one last quote to reflect on, this one from Marcus Aurelius: "You have been made for this." Act as if the world has appointed you to be the leader and example of what a good life should be. Remember, life is unpredictable, but how you respond to it is entirely up to you. If you found value in this video and want to continue exploring Stoic principles or practical ways to build resilience, be sure to check out more of our content and consider subscribing to the channel. Let us know in the comments which Stoic principle resonated most with you and how you plan to apply it in your life. Together, let's keep learning how to live with strength, clarity, and purpose. Thank you for watching.